In many applied networks in the real world, we do have to try to minimize expenses. It could be an irrigation system we're looking at. It could be a case of having to route a series of cables in a building. We're always after a way in which we can save some money. Prim's algorithm is a systematic way in which we can start at any vertex and create a minimum spanning tree. Now, it doesn't really matter where you start. If I chose to start at A, the minimum edge I can follow is to B. I then look to see what's the minimum connect or minimum edge from B to any further point. And you can see I'm tracking up through C, the minimum, following the minimum route, 8, and then 6. Now, at this point, we start splitting hairs a little bit because I've got to incorporate F and I've got to incorporate G into the plan as well. The only connector that I can get to E at the moment is a 13, 16 too big, 17 too big, 14, but I've got an 11 here. How can I get to F? I have a choice of 12 or 13. And I have the connector there. So the minimum spanning tree in this instance is made up of 12, 11, 10. Little strokes through them as they get bigger, that might help. 9, 8, and 6. And when I do that, I have a minimum connection length of 56 units. Meters, whatever. So starting at any vertex, looking at the smallest. So in B, I can start here with 4, 3, obviously. Now, at this point, I've only got choices of 4s. I go the 4 options. In tester exams, we tend to see lighter fonts used, maybe even dotted lines. So the minimum spanning tree in this instance is 4 and 4 and 3 and 3 and 4 and 4. What have we got there? 16 and 6, 22 units. When it comes to part C, I'm going to start at B. Tend to like working left to right. Minimum connection there, minimum edge I should say. I've got a 9. Now faced with a 9, I can't include that 10 because we've already included that. I can go to a 10. The 10, 8 and 6 juncture comes to mind. And I've encompassed everything bar F and G. The only edges that I could use to connect are 14, 15, 13. Can't do the 10. The logical process is to follow the 8 and then the 5. Now if we do that, that gives me 7 and 9 and 10 and 8 and 6 and 8 and 5. And when we process that, that should give me 53 units. Key thing is start at any edge. Don't panic too much, but make sure you're following the minimum trail. If you ever get a junction point, they're identical. You can choose either, but have a bit of an eye to where these could go. In D, see I'm following the trails. There's a 5 and a 6 juncture. Now, at this point, I've got to incorporate A. At this point too, I can only really go to 8. 8 has a choice of 7. The connectors to I are a choice of 15, 9 and 13. And I join that up. So in D, I've got 10 and 6 and 5 and 5 and 6 and 8 and 7 and 9. And if I go through and add those up, I should end up with 56 units. So Prim's algorithm is starting at any vertex and building from it. Go the minimum. Doesn't matter if it's a previous dead end, you must always go the minimum. And lastly, with E, choosing B, 11, 8's the connector there. Now, at this point, I can encompass H with a 9. It becomes a bit more problematic as I've only got 15s to join other components too. So 15, 13 and 12. It looks like I'm a very limited processes to get my C and A connector. But that should give me, when I add it up, 106 units. These aren't very hard, but please make sure that you're using a pencil and you have an eraser handy in case you need to repeat these.